not work? Oh, okay, it's working. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Perfect. I'd like to welcome everyone to the International Day of Elimination of Racial Discrimination here at the town of New Glasgow. My name is Wayne Desmond, and I'm happy to be the MC for tonight's event. I would like to welcome everybody. I hope everyone had a chance to grab something to eat or a drink, and if you haven't, get up and do it while the event's going along. No one should go hungry tonight. So I would like to start with giving a land acknowledgement here. As people living and working in Nova Scotia, we acknowledge that we are in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, and we pay respect to the indigenous knowledge held by Mi'kmaq people and the wisdom of their elders past and present. The Mi'kmaq signed the peace and friendship treaties with the Crown in Section 35 of the Constitution Act of 1982, recognizes and affirms Aboriginal and treaty rights. We are all treaty people. We also acknowledge that African Nova Scotian people are a distinct people whose history, legacies, and contributions enrich this part of Mi'kma'ki, known as Nova Scotia, for over 400 years. I would like to now call on the Warrior Drummers group to play the honor song. I ask that if you are wearing a hat, that you remove your hats, and that you are respectful of the song. Turn it over to you guys.
National Day, wake up,
Thank you to the Warrior Drummers for their performance there of the honor song. I'd like to acknowledge all the young men here playing the drums, and just to remind them that they are now the holders of their history and their culture, and that they have a role in the elimination of racial discrimination here in Nova Scotia, and I'm going to say here in Pictou County, here in Nova Scotia, and throughout Canada. You guys have a big role, but I know you're up for the task. And when I gave my, not introduction, when I welcomed everyone, I guess I didn't acknowledge that we are being live streamed, so I'd like to welcome everyone that may be on viewing this live. And I guess today, Brandy asked me to be the MC tonight, and I was just thinking about the International Day of Elimination of Racism, racial discrimination, and it was just nice to know that we were holding something here in New Glasgow this year. I know when I was a kid, I often looked forward to this day when Henny had the Run Against Racism. It was a time for us as a community to come together and to celebrate. Outside of African Heritage Month, we had something to look forward to, and we had something to hold our heads high about. I would like to now call upon Kennedy Atwell, who is a student support worker at North Nova Education Center, to give us the history of March 21st. Kennedy?
March 21st, 1960, approximately 7,000 protesters gathered in front of a police station in the Black Township of Sharpeville, South Africa, to peacefully protest the oppressive apartheid pass laws. These discriminatory laws severely limited the movement's Black South Africans as well as other citizens by restricting them to designated areas of the country. On this day, as the crowd started advancing towards the fence around the police station, police officers opened fire on these protesters, killing 69 human beings, including children. 180 individuals, young and old, were also injured. In 1979, the UN General Assembly adopted a program of activities to be undertaken as part of the Decade for Action to Combat Racism and Racial Discrimination. It was at this gathering that March 21st was chosen as the beginning of a week of solidarity with the people struggling against racism and racial discrimination. This commemoration also aligns with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, that all human beings are born free and equal in dignity and rights, and therefore have the potential to contribute constructively to the development and well-being of their societies. Next, I'll be doing the African Nova Scotian Acknowledgement. We acknowledge and request the presence of Mother Africa and the ancestors whose teachings, strength, and perseverance continue to challenge and inspire our community. We recognize that African Nova Scotians are a distinct founding people in Nova Scotia who have been a key part of the province's culture and history for more than 400 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Kennedy. Now we are going to watch a video which is entitled A Walk Through New Glasgow, Our Heritage Unveiled. So I don't know if the
Welcome to New Glasgow, Nova Scotia, population of approximately 9,697, home to 510 African Nova Scotians, arriving since 1767. Yes, we've been here. Pictou County's history includes significant contributions to struggles of African Nova Scotians, but we always overcome. 1767, Ship Betsy brought African Nova Scotia presents. 1779, slave auctions began in Pictou. 1783, Black Loyalists settled with land grants. 1786, slave Sambo sold, highlighting slaves' reality. Reverend James McGregor aided in securing freedom for enslaved individuals. War of 1812 brought African Nova Scotian settlements. 1834, Abolition Acts ended slavery. Migrations from Guysborough and Tracadie led to African Nova Scotian presence in the 1860s and 1880s. 1887, unrest in New Glasgow erupted over proposals to employ Black workers from Tracadie at low wages, sparking racial tension in the community. The African Nova Scotia presence in Pictou County was primarily established by the Black Loyalists of Guysborough and Tracadie, who migrated to the area during the 1860s and 1880s. Throughout the late 19th and early 20th centuries, numerous African Nova Scotia families also relocated to Pictou County from various parts of Nova Scotia, contributing to its diverse heritage. Some notable surnames include Borden, Bowden, Giro, Paris, Reddick, Clake, Williams, Shepherd, Talbot, Perry, Dorrington, Fee, Desmond, Izzard, Smith, Elms, Jackson, Jewell, Lee, Skinner, Lawrence, Jones, and McLean. Despite facing significant hardships and challenges, we still here. Cried to God once or thrush along the way, we still here. African Nova Scotians have played central roles in shaping the history and culture of Pictou County. Despite facing significant hardships and challenges along the way, we still here.
What are we doing all the way up here? It's pretty hot.
Well, this is the Mountain Ellis. It's another one of our historical Black communities here in New Glasgow.
Wow.
Yeah, so we're going to go visit one of our elders.
Hi, Brandy. Hi, Ellis. How are you guys today?
We're good, Brian. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. What's up?
I'm teaching Ellis a little bit about our history, and so I thought I'd bring him up to the mountain, and maybe you could teach us a few things.
Oh, I could tell you a lot about the mountain, but a lot has changed. But yeah, I can give you a little history. That's what you would like.
We'd love that.
Wait until I lock the door up, and I'll take you around.
All right, perfect.
Okay.
All right, we'll meet you on the street.
Okay, then.
How did the Black community end up on the mountain?
Well, from what I know was that Uncle Albert Williams, Mr. Albert Williams, he had his own, well, his father had his own business, and he was downtown on Provost Street. And because the downtown was building up and a lot of white business were going up, they wanted him out of there. So he took the deal and he moved up here and he split it up to certain people, and this is how the family got on the mountain. And most of them that came on the mountain were relatives. They were brothers, uncles, like sisters and sister-in-laws, like, you know, so that's how most of them all got up here. Yeah, so.
About how many families did you say?
Around 13 Black families, from what I remember.
Welcome to Jacksonville, a prominent Black community within the Black community. Home of the Jacksons, like Jim Jackson, with the notable boxers' names like Charles Bearcat Jackson, Jojo Jackson. This historical community ceased to exist upon the passing of the late Thomas Jackson Izzard.
The Afrocentric Heritage Park is situated on Vale Road in the south end of New Glasgow and has a rich history and significance. Originally established as the Vale Road Park in the 1970s,
It served as an outdoor recreation space for the community until the early 1990s, when the playground was relocated. In 2000, the park reopened with a new focus, dedicated to the children of our community and bearing the inscription, "One cannot envision the future without understanding the past." The Afrocentric Heritage Park is dedicated to our children. Central to the park is a pyramid-shaped building, symbolizing the pyramids of Egypt. Each side of the building represents a different aspect of the history and migration story of the Black community in Nova Scotia. The park serves as a commemoration of the past, a celebration of the present, and a foundation for the cultural future of African Nova Scotians.
We are now walking on the old Marsh Road. Back in 1914, it was known as Weirtown then. A gentleman by the name of Walter Weir bought a piece of this farmer's field and built houses onto it, row houses, for the black miners that had come up from down east to work at the mines in Westville and Stullerton. And this was the only place that they were allowed to live. And the families weren't allowed to move up with them. There was just the men. They worked here through the week, went home to Guysborough on the weekends. Over the years, the family started moving up and people started buying bits and pieces of property and becoming homeowners. Later on, when the main road went through here, and that's when the street took the name Vale Road.
In the heart of Pictou County stood Vale Road, a vibrant community where love, family, and community thrived without the confines of street names.
I was born and raised here.
Although poverty was a fact, so was love and imagination, and it was the recipe for stretching food and safely caring for each other. But in the late 1960s, the tranquility of Vale Road was threatened when it was classified as blighted under the Urban Renewal Development Plan of Pictou County. The town planner suggested the residential area be rezoned to commercial and the residents of Vale Road be relocated into public housing for their own good and the betterment of the community.
The park here on our right-hand side, this was a swamp that used to flood in the wintertime, and it was one of our main hockey rinks. For all the young kids growing up here, a lot of them learned how to skate on the pond that used to be right here.
But the community refused to be torn apart. Dr. Carrie Best, a journalist and activist who became a beacon of hope and resilience, spearheaded the fight to save the Vale Road. Together, they fought to preserve their homes and way of life and resist the injustice. The residents of Vale Road rallied together to resist the rezoning and relocation proposed by the town planner.
There's some that have been here for generations. The Bordens, the Reddicks, the Pattersons have all been here. The Parises, my parents, my grandparents, and their siblings.
In the years that followed, the residents reclaimed their Black presence in the community by renaming the streets after their own families with long histories in Vale Road. Bowden Road, Paris Way, Reddick Lane. These names now stand as a testament to the resilience and perseverance of the community. The Vale Road may have faced adversity, but it emerged stronger than ever. Together, we have shown the power of community and the importance of preserving our heritage. Welcome to Viola's Way, named after Viola Desmond to mark the place where she took her stand at the Roseland Theatre in 1946 when she was arrested for sitting in the whites-only section of the theatre. But that's not all. There was quite a traumatic downtown history in New Glasgow, often overlooked. Black citizens were subjected to this anti-Black mistreatment for decades before, and decades after Viola was so violently removed. This behavior persisted well into the late 60s and early 70s, and those victims are alive today.
The No. 2 Construction Battalion was the first and only all-Black military unit in Canadian history during World War I. They were pioneers, breaking down barriers and providing their capabilities on the battlefield and beyond.
Well, this is a cenotaph dedicated to the men of the number 2 Construction Battalion. They're Canada's first and only black battalion, and they paved the way for soldiers like me. Yes, and I'm a descendant of one of the soldiers. This battalion here is, they went overseas. They had to go through a lot of difficulties as black men in the forces, but they overcame that and they contributed to the Allied forces during World War I, and there was an integral part about helping win the war. Yeah, right on.
In 1903, a beacon of hope emerged in the heart of New Glasgow, Nova Scotia, a sanctuary that would stand as a testament to the resilience and strength of the black community. This beacon was the Second United Baptist Church.
Ariel, this is Second United Baptist Church, our church. It's the nucleus of our black community.
Born from the collective spirit and determination of its founders, whose names have become intertwined with its legacy.
Reverend Donald Thomas, he was the longest serving minister for Second Baptist Church. A lot of ministers have come and gone.
At its inception, the church was more than just a place of worship. It was a lifeline for black survival in a world fraught with adversity. With each passing year, it grew to become the epicenter of community life, a hub where souls gathered to find peace, support, and solidarity.
Second Baptist was like a safety net for our community members, a gathering space.
Led by devoted reverends, steadfast deacons, and committed women and members of the church, it became a force for social change, organizing around matters of social justice, and groups like the Men's Brotherhood, Pursuers, Ladies Auxiliary, and other missionary groups became our pillar of strength, binding the community together with their unwavering dedication. But it wasn't just the adults who found refuge with the church's walls. The youth found guidance and camaraderie through programs like Explorers, Beavers, CGIT, Sunday School, Junior Choir, and Youth Group.
The kids, like, you got your free ice, come and get your free ice cream and Papa Chips, children. Yeah, it was a family affair. Second Baptist Church family affair. Doors open to many.
But amidst the joy of the July 2nd, 1984 Sunday School picnic, a tragedy would strike. As families gathered for the annual Sunday School picnic, the RCMP came with a word. A fire had accidentally consumed the beloved church building that was currently under construction. Panic ensued as parents hastily gathered their children, their hearts heavy with grief and disbelief, to go check out the church fire.
We didn't go, unfortunately, and we barbecued at home at Nanny's house just behind the church, and we saw smoke and flames, and everybody that was at the barbecue at our house, they were here. And we just started picking up. I picked up the deacon's chair. We'll bring it out, run down. Actually, we took the furniture across the street by the school fence and run back up in and grab another piece of furniture. So it was very, very devastating. It was a big loss.
Yet even in the face of devastation, the spirit of the Second United Baptist Church endured. The fire may have claimed the physical structure, but the love and joy that once filled its halls remained alive in the hearts of its congregation. And as the community rallied together to rebuild, they did so with a renewed sense of purpose and determination, honoring the members of the past while forging ahead into the future.
That is a beautiful video of our heritage, our culture, and our history here in New Glasgow. I want to thank everyone that contributed to that beautiful video. I think it took us all down memory lane. I think I can recall a few things out of there from history being handed down to me, and that's exactly what this video does. So now I'm going to call on the contestants for the for the Jeopardy game, part 1, that I believe Mila is going to lead.
Is this mic? Oh, it's on. I'm going to call, we've seen that exciting display, and now we're going to test your knowledge. We're going to have a game of Jeopardy. Okay, so it's going to be a quick game, and if you're watching, you're going to get a lot of the answers, so let's see how well you listen. So first of all, I'm going to call on my scorekeepers. I would like Chelsea and Summer and Kennedy to come and keep score for me. Now, this is a homemade game. Okay, they're going to keep the scores on this. Judges' decisions are all final. I'm the judge. If you don't like the answer, I say, yep, that's good. Basically, there's no prizes. We're learning stuff. Okay, so we're going to jump right into Jeopardy, and I'm going to call to the stage Annette McLean. Woo! Contestant number 1. Contestant number 2, Angela Cromwell. And contestant number 3, Marcus McLean. Okay, so let's see if these things are working. Okay, what has to happen? I'm going to shut them all down. I will control. Okay, here's one for each of you. One. You might want to get comfortable. Thank you. And one for you. And one for you. So there's only one light that'll go. I'm going to turn the light off so that there'll be no cheating. And the first one on their buzzer, you, Marcus, you can bring your chair over. You don't have to. And the scorekeepers got the, where's my scorekeepers? Okay, who's for Marcus? Okay, you want to sit by Marcus over here? And Kennedy, you're for, who's your? Annette? And who's for the middle person? No, yeah. Sit here. And who's the middle person? Where's Summer? Chelsea. Chelsea, you want to, okay, Brandy, could you be the scorekeeper? So there's 3 whiteboards, 3 markers, and now let's get on with the show. So we have all these categories up here, and you might want to, I'll read the question, okay? So we have authors, human rights authors, human rights politics, local celebrities, human rights movies, education, and military. And since you're the elder here, Annette, you're going to go first. Politics for 100. Born in 1922 in New Glasgow, this person was a businessman, boxing coach, entrepreneur, and beloved community member, providing sanitation services in the New Glasgow area until the age of 89. Who was Hugh? Did everybody hear that? I have one microphone, so can my contestants please yell? You are correct. Okay, Annette, you got that? Your turn again. I wish I had a screen up here for you guys. Okay, watch this. Who was Hugh Sparky Paris? You're correct. Oh my, let's go. You didn't see that? Oh. There. Okay, Hugh Sparky Paris. Let's see. Now I go like that. There, back to the board. Now, Annette, what would you like? Politics for 400. Name of 2 other African Nova Scotian municipal councillors in New Glasgow. You are correct. Who are Norman Paris, Henderson Paris, Russell Borden, but yeah, you got Francis Thornton was a councillor too, but he's in another one, so woo, let's go on. Supposed to, this is not working. Let's go back. Looking for there. All right, so Annette, you got that? Your turn again. I got too many jobs over here. Politics for 300. You like the political one? The first African Nova Scotian woman elected to municipal council seat in the town of New Glasgow. Marcus? You are correct. Let's see. Who is Jocelyn Dorrington? Marcus, your go.
I'll go
Education for 100. Oh, thank you. Education for 100. This 1965 organization was established to help in the development of education, employment, and housing within the Black communities in Nova Scotia. Annette. What is the Black United Front, or BUF? You are correct. Annette? Authors for 400. The name of the newspaper published in the interest of colored Nova Scotians by Dr. Carrie Bess. What is the Clarion? You are correct. Annette. Local celebs for 200. New Glasgow actor, playwright, and in 2005, this person was invested into the Order of Canada. Who is Walter Borden? You are correct. You're going to be like that other lady. What was her name? The one from Pictou? Where, Matea? We got another Matea. Well, you're going home with a pocket of load of knowledge. Annette. Military for 200. First and only Black battalion in Canadian military. Angela? I'm going to give that to you, the number 2. You were right in every way, except saying number. What is the number 2 construction battalion? Angela? Movies for 200. This movie is based on the story of the number 2 construction battalion that was initially headquartered in Pictou, Nova Scotia. It is. It's based on this. Annette, did you? Oh. Oh, Angela. Honor before glory. You are correct. Angela. Local celebs for 100. Okay. First African Nova Scotian University graduate from New Glasgow. No takers? Oh, Annette. You are correct. Woo! Annette. Education for 300. The first Black school teacher in New Glasgow. I'm looking for my cursor so I can, there. Who is Cherry Paris? Annette? Military for 400. First Black Nova Scotian to receive the Victorian Cross. Who was William Hall? You're correct. Okay, we're just going to go over the scores. That was our good listening, and we'll be back for our second half after after a few more things. Okay? Thank you, contestants.
I'd like to thank Mila, Marcus, Annette, and Angela for taking part in the first part of the Jeopardy. I think the unveiling of some of the history here through the Jeopardy game just reminds us of the theme for tonight, Ubuntu. I am because we are. And we are all brilliant. We are all great and Black excellence because of their sacrifices that they made to make change. I'd now like to introduce the panelists for the intergenerational circle discussion. I'm going to call now on participants Beatrice Douglas, Derek Borden, Morgan Guiro, and Glenn Bonvy. And I'm going to hand the mic over to Chelsea, who's going to lead this part of the program.
Thank you, Wayne. Good evening to everyone joining us at Glasgow Square and our live stream guests. Our circle tonight will be discussing racial discrimination through their intergenerational lenses. Connecting intergenerational perspectives with racial discrimination involves recognizing the historical context of discrimination and understanding how it continues to impact multiple generations. We are fortunate within our communities to have a bridge connecting our youth and our elders, joining in unity and contributing to our collective consciousness. I am because you are. Joining our circle tonight are 4 individuals who have significant ties to our Black community here in New Glasgow, each carrying their own unique expertise and experience with racial discrimination. So starting to my left is Beatrice Douglas, retired after 35 years with the Canada Post. Beatrice worked in roles including administration, postage stamp depot, driving and loading trucks, letter courier service, delivery, and many more. Beatrice was a union activist and still remains a community activist and volunteer. Next, we have Derek Borden. Born and raised in Glasgow, Nova Scotia, he is the youngest of 18 to Hector and Ethel Borden. He works for the Highland Community Residential Services for the last 30 years and is the chair of the Diversity Committee within HCRS. Morgan Guiro, a teacher with the Strait Regional Center for Education, teaching grade 5, and also a part-time teacher in the Master of Education's program at St. Francis Xavier University. Although she does not currently live here, New Glasgow will always be home to Morgan. And lastly, we have Glenn Bonvy, born and raised in New Glasgow, Nova Scotia. He attended New Glasgow High School and graduated from St. Mary's University. Glenn then joined the RCMP in 1999 and has spent his entire career in Nova Scotia. Glenn has excelled in major crime areas of policing and has been in charge of the Northeast Nova Major Crime Unit since 2018. Glenn enjoys coaching and refereeing basketball and spending time with his family, his wife, and his kids. So to my circleist, I just want to say thank you guys for being here and sharing your valued perspectives. And with that, we are going to get to our first question tonight. What do you remember from your childhood and how you made sense of human difference? And if you have kids, is it different for them today than your own experience? Let's start with you, Derek.
Hello?
I'd just like to, in response to that, the major difference that I've found now that my children have grown up now and moved on, but was when I was young growing up in Vale Road in New Glasgow, there was no like preschool or 4+ or nothing. We grew up playing with everyone around us, which was all my first or second cousins. And so my first real exposure to anything other than my family on Vale Road was when I started grade primary at Temper Street School. And looking back now, there was a lot of things, hurdles that surprised me, things that I had to deal with, dealing with racism that I never had to deal with in those preschool years. And with my children, I find it different. The big difference was they had gone to preschool at Playtime for Doties, and when they were 3 and 4, and then they went to the 4+ program. So they were out at an earlier age in the greater community, and I feel that they had a bigger head start in dealing with some of the issues that they used to come home and talk to me about and looking for answers. So yeah, that was the biggest difference I found.
Yeah, and that would be a difference too, starting early and integrating early versus not having that and sticking to your own. So,
right.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on that? No? All right, our next question. What role does education play in addressing racial discrimination? How can curriculum and teaching methods be improved to foster greater understanding and acceptance? Let's go to Morgan.
The in-house teacher. I think education is 2 parts. When I look into the audience today, I feel like there are, for me personally, growing up in New Glasgow, there's so many educators of my own in the audience here this evening who helped educate me, helped raise me. You know, that whole African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child. My first educators, some of you are in the room right now, my mom, my grandmother. So education kind of has like a two-parter. When we think of our youth coming from our communities where they're safe, they're loved, they're seen, they're heard, and how we build them up to be resilient and to believe that, you know, the world is endless for them. And then we send them into the school system where sometimes they're told otherwise, right? So before, you know, we send our kids to spaces and places that, you know, aren't built for them systemically. At home, it starts with our first educators, our parents, our communities, our elders, and the spaces and places that we navigate through, and building that resilience in them before they get into the system. Now, I am part of the system. I teach part-time in the St. FX BED, the master's program, and I work with teachers who are wanting to educate themselves and to grow and to be better educators for all of our youth. And so I'm encouraged by what I see from educators who take time out of their own schedules to embark on a 2-year master's program to learn and to grow and to really challenge themselves and to grapple with some of those things that they've been taught and things that they've perpetuated. So I'm encouraged in that sense that there are, this is my 3rd year teaching, that there's, you know, 150 plus teachers who have gone through that program who are making a difference in our school systems. Now, I'm not naive to think that there aren't educators in the system who are, you know, who are in with our kids, tearing them down and, not being as responsive as they should be. But I have hope in terms of, what I see coming down the pipes in terms of, the streamlining and the redesigning of the curriculum and our voices being more present in the curriculum and what I'm seeing in the last couple of years. So for me, it starts in our communities and in our homes and with our elders and our communities, wrapping our arms around our kids and teaching them to be resilient. And for, anybody in the audience who may be, raising white children at home, or anybody who may be watching via the live stream who, are wondering, well, how can I, teach my child to be an ally? If our children are old enough to be on the receiving end of the discrimination, your children are old enough to understand their role in being an ally and breaking down that those racial, I don't even want to say microaggressions because they're not micro and they're not macro. No. They're aggressions. To tear down, and be better for the generation coming up. So it's no easy task, but I'm hopeful.
Yeah, yes. Just to hit on a couple points, being in the education system myself, I do believe that it is, school has an obligation, but home has an obligation as well, and it's on us and ourselves to, look at the world and what we want for our kids, and to teach them better every chance that we can get. Yeah. Does anybody else want to weigh in on the education question?
I'd just like to add to that where she was speaking about the elders. I was very fortunate growing up. The reason I know so much history about the Vale Road area and New Glasgow in general is because of my parents, my aunts and uncles like Uncle Bill, Aunt Mary Charlie. When I was growing up, I always liked to listen to the old people. And so I learned an awful lot from them. And then as I got into my teens, another gentleman that I spent a lot of time with was Mr. Bob Shepard. And one thing I'd like to state is that long before any books or anything came out about number 2 construction, I knew all about it in the early 70s from going to visit Mr. Shepard and hearing the stories about what he went through going over there as a 15-year-old boy. And then when I got older still, there was other people in the community, especially when I worked as an orderly at Glen Haven, people like Helen Lawrence and different people that were in Glen Haven at the time. I used to sit and listen to all those stories, and I learned a lot more from them than any history book.
That's great. And these discussions really help us to see and learn and be able to find how to bridge that gap within the systemic racism that we do face in our education system as well. Moving on. How have incidents of police brutality and the many protests and demonstrations impacted you on a personal level? Glenn, what's your perspective on this as you are involved with our policing system?
Can everybody hear me fine? So I don't need a mic? Need the mic?
Live stream.
All right, can everybody hear me now? Good evening, everybody, and thanks for the invitation. I've been working in law enforcement for almost 25 years. The reason I joined policing was to help people and to also hold those account for any wrongdoing in whatever community I policed. I quickly learned that there's a lot of people, not only in the organization I work for, but several other policing agencies that don't have the same core values as myself. They don't act the same. They actually perform things differently than I would on a day-to-day basis. Many of the unfortunate police brutality incidents over the years left me shocked, angry, disappointed, embarrassed. And I even pondered several times about whether or not policing is the right thing for me, and if I should continue when I was exposed to and have seen and witnessed some of these heinous acts, especially when we're supposed to be out there protecting and serving the community. Moreover, these incidents really truly made me consider if policing in fact is where I should be. However, in saying all this, I cannot allow these horrible acts and these incidents to stop me from trying to affect change and being a positive role model. And that's in the community, for my kids, and for the organization I work for.
I recently had a conversation with somebody about the needing to fix and wanting to fix. And I said, sometimes you can't fix a big problem. You just need to change one life at a time and go into it and think, hey, all I can do is put one foot forward and change that life, and then that creates a domino effect. That change will eventually, hopefully, fix the issue. So thank you. Does anybody else want to weigh in on that one? In your words, what is an ally? How can they support marginalized communities in the fight against racial discrimination? Let's hear from Beatrice.
I made a few notes here just so I try to keep on track here. I don't want to take too long. Okay. An ally is someone that will stand up for the causes you believe in and support marginalized communities. An ally sometimes might have privilege, but chooses to stand with the marginalized. An ally will take actions to support the marginalized and to change the systems that are keeping the marginalized oppressed. In regard to allies supporting marginalized communities in the fight against racial discrimination, allies can listen to these marginalized groups when they are telling their stories about discrimination they are experiencing. Allies can be educated about the issues by reading online articles, newspapers, historical books and articles, films, watching films, etc. There's a lot out there. You just need to put yourself out there and get educated. Allies can join together with the marginalized by showing up for the protests, information sessions. Allies can speak up right away if someone is experiencing injustices. Do not wait for later. Protect the person right away who is experiencing the injustice. Ask why this is happening. Keep track of events and information of the injustice. Build a network of allies for support. Get contact information to keep allies up to date on your issues. Allies, please do not be silent about injustices that are happening to marginalized groups. Just a few of the notes that I've made. I've been involved with unions for years, and they've always had allies. I've been involved with community work too, and allies are what's going to help. So we need allies. We need support.
Yeah. Does anyone else connect with that?
Absolutely. As an educator, for many of my students, I'm their first, Black teacher. So I take that quite, I take that seriously. So when I'm, teaching little minds to what allyship is, and how sometimes, it's speaking up when your voice shakes, it's physically standing beside somebody who is on the receiving end of some racial discrimination, and sometimes it's losing that friend, sometimes it's having that difficult conversation with Uncle Bob at Thanksgiving, sometimes it's losing the partner or the significant other. Recently, my nephew was on the receiving end of some racial discrimination from a substitute, And he was very quick to recognize what he was on the receiving end of, and he'd asked to go to the washroom, but made his way to the office. But a little boy in his class who was white knew that what he was experiencing was also wrong, and also asked to go to the washroom, and followed my nephew to the office and stood by him as he went and told the principal what he was experiencing, and stayed with him all afternoon because he didn't end up going back to class. And so when my sister-in-law called me about the situation and how it was handled by the school, it was handled wonderfully. And I said, make sure you call that little boy's parents to tell them, what he did and his allyship and what that meant to my nephew and what that meant to us, because, I'm 45 minutes away and, I worry about, my 2 black nephews and what they're experiencing in the school system, being in the system and seeing it unfold even within my own school, right? So allyship has no age, it has no gender, it has no education. Even the little, 10-year-old boy asking to go to the washroom can be an ally. And so, as I said earlier, if our kids are old enough to be on the receiving end of that, your kids are old enough to be an ally and to use their voice.
Absolutely. Yes. And is there anyone else who connects with that or wants to weigh in? I agree. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, like you said, if it's a shaky voice, if it's standing next to somebody. It's showing up when you don't even think you can show up yourself, but you do. And you put yourself in those positions, and then you realize. You don't even realize what you're really doing, the volumes that it speaks, so.
Even just in my own experience, too, it's weird to think that in 2024, I'm like one of 3 black educators in my school. And that's saying something. Like we've got the most within our region, right? That's like wild to think about in 2024, right? So when I think of, I've been teaching for 10 years and it's unreal, the aggressions that even I've experienced in the school system. So when I think of allyship for myself, when, my coworkers show up as allies, sometimes it's just to listen to me vent. I don't need you to try to figure it out, to, start flipping tables or sometimes I just need you to listen.
Yeah.
Sometimes I just need you to sit, listen, and then sometimes I do need you to go flip the tables because sometimes you have more privilege than I do.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
So allyship looks different in every, situation.
Yes, thank you so much. Thank you. So at this time, we are going to take a short 5 to 7 minute break. If you need to go to the bathroom, grab anything, and we're going to hear from some lovely African drummers.
Your phone's here, Chelsea, if you need it. I'd like to thank our drummers for giving us that beautiful entertainment. A very loud round of applause. And before we move back into our discussion, I would just like to take the opportunity to ask our elders in the room to take a stand. I think Derek mentioned something very key tonight, that our education comes from our elders. So I think we should honor them. So I ask you, if you can stand up, to stand. Or older people. There we go. Well, all of our elders, if you consider yourself elder or not, we'll respect you as one. I'd like to turn it back over to Chelsea now to continue the discussion.
No, it's right here. All right, we're going to dive right back in here. What steps can employers take to ensure equitable hiring practices and create inclusive workspaces? Let's go back to you, Morgan.
Green means go. I can only speak to my experience in the education system. I see it now with the BED students getting ready to graduate and being references for some of our African Nova Scotian pre-service teachers, and being a part of the whole HR process of connecting with those African Nova Scotian teachers who aren't from one of our Indigenous communities. So maybe they're from Ontario or however, trying to connect them to a community here to kind of, I don't want to say lure them, but wanting to hire them, right? So I see it now, especially with, they're getting ready to graduate and how competitive it is. I mean, I just look at myself, and SRCE was very competitive when they recruited me, because there's nothing more than, I would have loved to come home and teach in my own community, but they were very competitive in terms of recruiting me to stay down there, and it's, been 10 years now, right? So when it comes to creating or thinking of like inclusive and equitable hiring practices, in my own perspective, what I see within the education system, I see a more push to create equitable spaces by being intentional about who we are hiring. And in terms of creating inclusive workplaces, I spoke earlier to how I'm one of 3, Black educators within my own school, and we go back and forth, almost daily about like if we all land up in the hallway together, like, well, wait a minute, we all can't be, because somebody might think something's going on, right? So just in terms of creating inclusive spaces, I think of, what our students need. Sometimes when we physically walk into a building, and even the name itself is like Sir John A. Macdonald or whatever, like even from the jump, it's not inclusive, it doesn't reflect us. And then we walk into the hallways and we're seeing all of the, the artwork that doesn't reflect us. We don't see ourselves reflected in the staff, in the administration. We don't see ourselves reflected sometimes in the curriculum. And it's the same thing for an educator in the space and the place. When I come home in the summer, it's like, I can just let it go. The code switching is real. I spend 2 months with my people, with my family, and I get to be me. And the minute I go back to Antigonish, and you have those days before the kids come, and you're like, okay, wait a minute, you gotta do the code switch, because I'm not home, right? I have to put the teacher hat back on, right? And so you're constantly thinking, the term being coined like putting on your racial battlefield armor, right? Because you're the mental chess of it all, of being 10 steps of, okay, if I say this, how is this going to be interpreted? Am I going to end up in HR, right? So in terms of creating inclusive workplaces, it's really just looking at it as a systemic approach. It's one thing, yes, to be aggressive in recruiting Black teachers and educators, but what about the retention of those educators? I can think of 5 right off the top of my head in the last 10 years who left our system because they were not supported in our education system. And I'm going to give a shout out to Kathy Rhodes Langell, who who's from Homegrown, works for my Center for Education, and monthly walks me off the ledge of, Kathy, I can't do it. It's 10 years, I'm too young to be this jaded. And it's folks like Kathy who have been through it, who are continually being through it, who is a phenomenal mentor to me down in Antigonish, amongst oodles and oodles of other people. It's having voices like hers, people from my community, seeing myself reflected in the environment that creates that inclusive space for me. So it's not enough to recruit, but what are we doing to retain and keep those folks? What about our mental health? And when we have racial incidences in the school, it's not just affecting the kids, it's also affecting the staff, because in one hand we want to support our students and what they're experiencing, but we're also employees. And that saying goes, you don't bite the hand that feeds you, right? So there's a lot of systemic things in terms of creating an inclusive environment. So it's, when you think about the top down, are you able to go and speak to your educational leader in terms of being able to voice those concerns without fear of repercussion? So in that sense, what is the training, what is the accountability to our educational leaders in terms of keeping a safe space? In terms of for Black teachers and other teachers of color in our school system. So, and then in terms of what is their role? Well, what is our Center for Education's role in terms of creating safe and inclusive spaces? That's one of our pillars when we think of what our system plans are, creating safe and inclusive environments. But what does that mean? What does that look like for the people of color in those spaces and places, right? So it's a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Let's go to Glenn. Glenn, for your perspective.
Don't know if I can top that. No. So I'll start off with one thing and that's sustainable, meaningful change doesn't happen overnight. That being said, employment equity for me started back in the mid-90s when I was a summer student at HRDC here locally in Glasgow. And my summer job was to drive around with the manager and teach employment equity, a PowerPoint across the province. And so when I first got moved into the RCMP, they started talking about employment equity initiatives. I was like, oh, I know about that. And they said, oh, what do you know? So I ended up starting to build things for the RCMP as well around that. And I've been heavily engaged throughout my career in regards to being part of those things. Slow change, but there is some change. What I will say is that it is paramount that employers bring their employees into the fold and have them engaged in their plan. Although we know employment equity is law, but establishing buy-in, educating your managers and employees, and creating awareness are critical components to making a workplace inclusive. Secondly, although having the employers engage in affecting change by following through with their equity plans and implementing employment equity initiatives, this is not just putting a plan on paper and putting a link on your website to appease the LEAP or the commission, but actually setting deadlines and targets in those goals quarterly. So what I will say about that is that from my organization I work for, the RCMP, I know a number of initiatives, and it makes me proud to know that it took so long for some of these things, but many of you may know Craig Smith, who's in the RCMP. And Craig right now, along with some of the other colleagues in the division, are teaching a national course. Started here in Nova Scotia, and it's the ACE course. That is the African Canadian experience. And I've been part of that panel as well, and it's great. Also, another one is the Aboriginal Perceptions. I have taken part in that one as well. There are 2 courses that are fantastic, and everybody that I spoke to, colleagues that are even in my own unit, it was eye-openers for them. And it should be eye-openers for them because they should already be aware.
Yes.
In sum, numbers speaks for themselves. Although some progress has been made, we got a long way to go.
Yes. Yes. Thank you so much. Our next question, and thinking about empowerment and having the ability to change the narrative, how have we preserved joy and unity in our communities despite the hardship? Beatrice, what ideas do you have?
Okay, I'm going to read off some more so I don't get off track here. Okay, so for many generations, our families who came to this community have helped one another. Women and men in our community tried to help wherever they could help in the community. That is the only way they could survive the many hardships they had to deal with. The community members lived through tough times, world wars, economic depression, racism, segregation in many public places, lack of job opportunities, etc. There's a list. Through the church and community, they had many connections. There were organizations for all to participate in. Whether you were a young child, teenager, young adult, or older adult. Church organizations were gathering places for many people, and we did talk about some of that in that film there. There was the Baptist Youth Fellowship, Sunday School, Ladies Auxiliary, Men's Brotherhood, Canadian Girls in Training, they called it CGIT, various church choirs, and there's a list. There's another list too. There's a lot more. There were many events in our community that community members looked forward to, such as our church picnics, church suppers, the African United Baptist Church Association annual August meeting, Baptist Youth Fellowship annual July meeting, visits to our community by other visiting church communities, just communities in general. There were many people that returned home, so this was a source of joy too, our community members coming home from whether it was the States or other parts of Canada or other parts of the world. These were our joys and our unity. There's many stories still to tell. Our community they were involved with the Black United Front. We mentioned the Black United Front. They were involved with the Black Cultural Center, Congress of Black Women. Some of our men were Masonic Masons. Some of them had to travel to Halifax because of the racism they experienced here. Imagine traveling from here at night to go to a Masonic meeting in Halifax. But they persevered. There was also a mention about the Pursuer Society. These people, they gathered, or they were our community members, they gathered, and they were trying to help fight discrimination. And they were trying to get employment, they were trying to get housing, summer jobs for our children, recreational programs, grants for home repairs, etc. We also had, there were gathering places for our community. They had dances, they had parties, they had weddings. This was all a part of our joy. There were happy times. there were sports. There were sports that they were involved with: baseball, hockey, swimming, skating, etc. These were our joys.
Thank you. Even now, preserving our joy is taking ownership and realizing that, like, what Black excellence entails. And that Black excellence isn't just celebrated during one day of the year, it's 365. So it's a constant, it's in everyone. It's in the little things that we don't notice. And being in the school system, I try to tell the kids all the time, like, you are Black excellence. So live in that, embody that, feel that. And again, like our theme tonight about Ubuntu, you know, exactly. I am because we are. That's Black excellence in itself. So concluding, I just want to say thank you so much, you guys, for your testimonies today and joining us. Your words, your time, and your devotion to our communities and the ongoing fight for racial discrimination never goes unnoticed. So thank you so much.
I'd like to hand it back over to Mila for round 2 of Jeopardy. I'm going to call Marcus, Angela, and Annette back on.
Thank you, Wayne. It's certainly been a great night, and I'm going to thank my contestants for showing up. I know it's a hard game, but I want to thank the audience for participating, and I especially want to thank the committee that put all of this together. You can tell there was time and effort and so many things, and so everybody did their little piece, and I hope that nobody was overworked, because I'm certainly enjoying it, and I'm hearing a lot of people here enjoying it. So let's get on with the show so we don't have to hold you up all night. The food was great, too. I don't know who you are. Where's the food person? Want to say thank you. Very tasty, delightful, and no germs. All right, so Annette, I think you got the last one. You're a girl. Politics for 500. Current Minister of African Nova Scotian Affairs. Annette. I will take. Who is Honorable Twyla Gross? You are correct. Annette again? Local celebrities, we're going for the big ones. Local celebrities, 500. Founder of the annual Run Against Racism over 20 years ago. Who is Henderson Paris? Okay, anybody want to ring the buzzer before Annette gets to? Education for 500. In 1990, Marcus, he founded the annual Run Against Racism. So, and you still didn't know it? Who was Henderson Paris? It's in a different spot. Yes, it is a rerun. I made a mistake, okay? I'm not a professional. I did, but I was hoping that people would catch it and get the answer. Angela, how much was that worth? 500, good for you. Okay, can we go over the scores? We have Annette at 2,800. We have Angela at 900. And we have Marcus, he's on the board, 300. All right, Angela. I hope there's another repeat question for you there, Marcus. Local celebrities for 300. Truro native who went from singing in her father's church to singing in concerts around the world. Angela. Do I hear cheating from the audience? All right. Who was Portia White? I'm sorry, I messed it up. Did you know the answer? Okay. How much was it for? You can give her the points. I'm the judge. All right. Annette. Movies for 400. This 2009 film explores unfair balance of emotional damage on Black and First Nations in Nova Scotia. Thank you, Angela. What is There's Something in the Water? Angela. Movies for 300. The monument commemorating the No. 2 Construction Battalion is in this town. Oh, it's not a movie. Oh. What is Pictou? You are correct. Angela, next question. Movies for 500. Oh, it's not a movie. Choir director for over 40 years at the Second United Baptist Church. Remember, it was movies and music? Who is Ida Lawrence? That was supposed to be music and movies. And that, were you allowed to sing for Ida?
I remember when I first joined the junior choir at Second Baptist Church, and I can't sing, I'm monotone. But anyways, oh yeah, don't worry about it, everybody else will drown you out. So we're up there singing Sunday in church doing our solo, and I was just singing my heart out, and I looked over and Ida's looking at me going, so I quit.
On the other hand, Angela was her prize student. All right, Annette. Annette? Oh, I don't know what happened. That's technical difficulties. Military for 500. First African Nova Scotian to hold the rank of captain in the Canadian military. I heard the answer. Man, I'm trying to move my cursor. Oh, there it is. Who is George Borden? It should be Captain George Borden. All right, Annette? Authors for 500. The New Glasgow Evening News offered this woman a job in editorial, the first Indigenous Nova Scotian Black person to be employed with a mainstream media outlet in the province of Nova Scotia. Annette, you are correct. Who is Alida E. Williams? Annette? Pardon? Local celebrities, 400. Hails from New Glasgow. This doctor is a senior policy analyst at National Education Association, Washington, D.C., in the USA. Who's cheating in the audience? Verna, next time I'm putting you up here. I'm sorry, I can't give that to you because, okay, that's, Marcus, do you want to try to answer that? Well, so I'm the judge. I'm the judge.
I don't cheat.
Oh. Who is Dr. Adrienne Dorrington? Okay. Education for 400. Daily Double. We should have the music. Okay, so the Daily Double, everybody knows about the Daily Double. This is a time, can we show the scores? Annette, well, let's go. Marcus, your score is 300. Angela's score is 1,300. And Annette's score is 4,500. So, this is the Daily Double. So, do you supposed to put the answer on a whiteboard? There's another whiteboard here. So you can write your answers down? Oh, I'm prepared. No, everybody can do it, and everybody can get points. You gotta write your wager, and everybody gets points. I'm the judge. And if this happened the last time I played Jeopardy, there was a big argument. Now, tonight I ruled myself as the judge. So so the Daily Double. So here's the question. New Glasgow actor, playwright, and in 2005, this person was invested into the Order of Canada. You know it too. Yes. And you all get a score. Whatever you wager, your score is going to go up. So it doesn't need a light. Is that wrong, Randy? Well, don't call me out. Okay, so who would like to go first? You are correct. Angela, what is your answer? How much did you bet, and what is your answer? Oh, you're supposed to write your number down first. Okay, 100, Walter Borden. Marcus got 100. And Angela, how much did you wager? 450 for Angela. All right, and that? Authors for 300. Activist, journalist, publisher, and co-founder of Nova Scotia's first black newspaper, and in 2011 was featured on a stamp. Who is Dr. Carrie Bess? You are correct. Now we're just going to do these, and everybody can answer. Okay. All right, because that was my last question for them. So let's see. This new Glasgow native recently published a biography titled Gooseberries and Have Thorns and presented, yes. The answer is Margaret States. Okay, so 200.1. TEDx speaker, author, writer, poet, motivational speaker, and activist, was born in... Angela Bowden is correct. Movies. The story of Viola Desmond and the events that followed after she refused to leave the whites-only section of the movie theater in New Glasgow. Does anybody know the name of that movie? The Long Road is correct. What is the long road to justice? Military. In a remarkable moment of cultural significance, this singer had the honor of performing for Her Majesty the Queen. Isn't that militant? Is that military? Representing New Glasgow on a prestigious stage at this event. What was this event? Oh, who was Angela Cromwell? Right. So Angela sang for the Queen. All right, 200. The name of the group of women from New Glasgow who in 2008 formed the first ever black quilt makers. Okay, who are the veil quilters? What band in the late 1950s in Pictou County? This band shattered racial barriers. The Blue Cats. Who are the Blue Cats? And the last one, the first African Nova Scotian elected official in Pictou County, who was Francis Dorrington. And thank you very much, everybody, and give a big applause for our contestants.
I'd like to say thank you to everyone that participated in that. And a thank you to Mila for putting this together and giving us a little comedy show as well. So now I'd like to, I believe we're going to play a video, a spoken word done by Angela Bowden.
Ubuntu song. In the marrow of our bones, in the echoes of our laughter, lives a legacy of love spanning generations ever after. Through the grueling tests of time, through the sizzling storms of hate, our ancestors, they carved a path, their steps communicate. Through the depths of the Middle Passage, hear the cadence of their feet, see the burdens of their journey, feel the love in each heartbeat. Generational, intentional, our guiding light on these dark streets. From the shores of Nova Scotia, where freedom called our name, through Reconstruction's fiery trials and hopes and dreams reclaimed, from the vault of those before us, priceless wisdom does bestow, kernels of truth to always root us, and some seeds for us to grow. Kernels of truth to always root us, and some seeds for us to grow. In every season there'll be trials. In every trial we'll ever face, let love first become our anchor. Let it be our saving grace. Through our struggle and our pain cometh joy, survival's song. Generational love sustained us, and our faith has kept us strong. And so as we journey forward, we remember what brought us through. We give honor and we pay homage to each and every one of you, our ancestors, our elders, our mentors, and our youth. With resilience in our veins and with hope inside our hearts, we shall dance through our adversity, refusing to fall apart. And as we dance, we feel the light shine through, and we shall carry on, 'cause we are one through each other. We are one, sisters and brothers. We are one, love for each other. And this is our Ubuntu song.
I'd like to say thank you to Angela Bowden, and well, I just call her Angie. I know she's with us live here from Toronto. And I'd just like to say thank you to her for her words of truth, the unspoken truth, you know, the book that she wrote. Now I'm going to call on Miss Cynthia Dorrington for remarks from the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cynthia Dorrington, and I'm bringing remarks on behalf of the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission. As a commissioner, along with my fellow commissioners, we work with our team at the Commission to administer the Nova Scotia Human Rights Act through two distinct pieces of our important mandate. The first being to protect human rights through a trauma-informed, restorative, and culturally responsive dispute resolution process. And our second part is to advance the human rights through public education, engagement, and awareness. March 21st, as we know, is the day that marks a tragic event in the collective history of people of African descent. This day in 1960, in Sharpeville, South Africa, peaceful protesters were demonstrating against discriminatory laws known as apartheid. However, instead of listening to voices, authorities responded with violence, as we know. They opened fire on the protesters, killing 69 people and injuring many more. This brutal event shocked the world and highlighted the urgent need to address racial discrimination. In 1979, the United Nations declared March 21st as the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination, to honor the victims of Sharpeville massacre and to raise awareness about the harmful effects of racism. This day serves as a reminder of the ongoing struggle against discrimination and inequity faced by people of all races and backgrounds. This evening's event highlighted our history, our culture, our linkage from generation to generation. It spoke to and highlighted your theme tonight, Ubuntu, I am because we are. As you know, New Glasgow is my home and has played a significant role. New Glasgow is my home and has played a significant role in racial discrimination and injustice in Nova Scotia's history. I believe Viola Desmond's act of bravery at the Roseland Theatre, just up the road from here, allowed our community to come together to effect change for the next generation to call this place home. My formative years were shaped by this town, our community, and the people who broadened our community by stepping up and stepping out. Our community, New Glasgow, has a rich history when it comes to anti-racism, advocacy, and the fight for empowerment of African Nova Scotians and people of African descent. I value the wisdom and knowledge I garnered as I stand on the shoulders of other African Nova Scotians in this community. Dr. Carrie Bess, a civil rights activist and co-founder of the Clarion, the first Nova Scotian newspaper owned and published by an African Nova Scotian. Francis Dorrington, my dad, the first Black councillor in the town of New Glasgow, serving for 21 consecutive years. Business owners in the community, who some of us know, Isabel Izzard, Russell and Annie Paris. Teachers who taught us, Burma Marshall, Adrian Dorrington, Ronnie Paris, Jocelyn Dorrington, Marlette Borden, to name a few. This list can be very long, as we know, and I don't have all evening. However, if I went around this room and asked each of you to give me 3 names of people who had a significant impact on your lives, I know we will have a collective list that will be extremely long. This day has a greater significance for New Glasgow. As we know, in 1989, Henderson Paris, or Henny, as we know him, kicked off the Run Against Racism, which he organized for over 20 years prior to retiring from the run. A run that grew over time and highlighted the awareness about racism and discrimination in our society. Henny not only ran to bring awareness about racism and discrimination out, he also served as a commissioner on the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission, helping to fulfill on its mandate. Henny was not the only one in his family to be part of the commission. His sisters, Beverly Bomvie and Cherry Paris, collectively gave 58 years to the commission in New Glasgow and Digby, respectively. They were dedicated to the important work of protecting and advancing human rights and ensuring adherence to the Nova Scotia Human Rights Act. Ultimately, their life work was dedicated to championing the cause of justice. The Commission was thrilled to be invited to New Glasgow in partnership with the Canadian Race Relations Foundation to recognize the persistent spirit of New Glasgow's Black leaders on this important occasion. I would like to acknowledge and give special thanks to Chelsea Borden, Dara Smith, Brandy Borden-Silla, Summer Borden, Kennedy Atwell, Mila Borden, and Angela Bowden, who have all worked tirelessly as grassroots community volunteers to organize this event. Your collective enthusiasm and leadership have brought us here tonight, and I want to sincerely thank you from the bottom of my heart. Additionally, I would also like to acknowledge the leadership of Ayo Elda-JB, and I know I pronounced that incorrectly, so I apologize. The Commission's outgoing Director of Race Relations, Equity and Inclusion, who worked alongside the community, who led and planned tonight's event. Ayo, you will be missed by the Commission as he transitions to his new role as Executive Director, Engagement, Equity and Belonging in the Department of Labor, Skills and Immigration. On behalf of the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission, I would like to take this opportunity to publicly thank Ayo for his contribution to the important work of advancing human rights in his nearly 3 years of service, and wish him the very best in his new role. On behalf of the Nova Scotia Human Rights, I would like to thank each of you for attending tonight's gathering to commemorate the International Day for the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. In closing, along with the Nova Scotia Human Rights Commission, I would like to acknowledge the individuals who have been on the front line championing human rights, and many others from New Glasgow, past and present, who work tirelessly and often behind the scenes to protect and promote rights in our community, across our province, and the nation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Cynthia. Now I would like to say thank you to everyone for coming here today, the ones that participated and the ones that just showed up to listen, to learn, or just go down memory lane of our rich history here in New Glasgow that stems from our Black community. I think we can all say together, we're proud to be a part, not only New Glasgow, but Pictou County, in taking a part in changing society. I would now like to call on the drummers here again to drum us out. Thank you very much, everyone, and I hope you have a great evening. You're welcome.